Good afternoon, and welcome to this Premier League finale episode of Coffee with a Kick. There's not a lot of preamble needed here. Keegan, is there anything that you want to say before we get started?
I'm feeling good. Lots of celebrating on Sunday. Lots of excitement. I mean, what can you say? 4 straight. First team to ever do it. I don't care what Man United fans say just because they have 13 and we have 8 now. This City team, every pundit said they're the best team ever. Might even be best team to ever live in any league. To do 4 straight, do a couple doubles, a treble. Crazy.
4 straight, 6 and 7 years, if I'm not correct.
Yep.
100 points in a season. Set records for most goals in a season, I'm pretty sure. This season itself, this was a record for most goals across a Premier League season for all teams. That kind of speaks to... there are a lot of wild scorelines from this year. But yeah, City ends up pulling it out. We'll go ahead and just dip right into it, starting with Arsenal and Everton. The first one, I thought that I was going to get my draw here, going to get my unit bump. But instead, Everton lets me down and allows that goal there. I think it was in the 89th minute, even later by Kai Havertz. Odegaard gets his second assist of the game. But, I was all for naught, essentially. At that point, City's up 2 going into the last couple of minutes as well. They're trailing just a little bit as far as timeline-wise, but Arsenal knew that they had nothing to play for, essentially.
Yeah, this one was nervy. They had things to play for, especially after the Kudus bicycle kick in the Man City game. Goal of the season, I think that beats Garnacho's, mainly because he flicked it up to himself and then put it in from that close. Anyways, a lot to play for still, but Arsenal, it seemed like once the players, it almost felt like the players knew that City were up because there was a lull for like 60 minutes there where it was like, just passing around it looked like Burnley out there. Oof. They got the goal at the end, but didn't matter. City take it. But yeah, Arsenal, you really got to put it away. That kind of culminated the reason why they lost is because when the games that mattered, they couldn't get it done. Eventually, they got this one done, obviously, but it didn't feel like they were going to.
Yeah, just because they weren't scoring. They dominated the match overall. They were definitely better than Everton. It's just, the coming through in the final moment, they had it in this match, but they're missing it in others. It's narrow margins when you're up at the top of the table, and this one did not break the rate. We'll see about next season. We'll see what type of turnover we have in between these squads from one year to the next. How much of a point hole Man City is going to start in. Probably start with like negative points or something next season is what I've heard. Or something along those lines. Maybe they'll let them get a few points and then just knock them back down to 0 when we hit week 5 or something. But we'll see. We'll see. Going to the next one. This one, we both got that one. You got it perfectly correct as a 2-1 scoreline. My 2-2 did not hold. Or my 1-1 draw didn't hold, and the 2-2 never happened. And then we go to Newcastle and Brentford. Both of us got this wrong because we didn't think Newcastle, who've been playing poorly, they won quite handily, to be honest. They were up 3-0 at one point, let in an early second half goal, and then maybe it was a little bit closer when Brentford got the whistle goal there in the 70th, but they shut it down with a Gumarães 77th minute and really took care of business here, surprisingly, away from home, away from St. James's Park at the G-Tech. We already talked about how they were playing for a little bit, but it wasn't much in the end.
Yeah, the thing is, if Man City end up winning, Newcastle get the Europe Conference League spot, and Chelsea will get the Europa League spot. So Newcastle winning actually could get them in Europe if City beats United in the FA Cup.
Wait, so in the FA Cup...
So, disclaimer, the FA Cup, if you win it, it's an automatic qualifier to the Europa League. But since City already won the league, they're in the Champions League, they can't go to the Europa League.
Right.
So it like just goes down the order. The next team up would go to the UEFA Conference League, and then Chelsea would bump up to the Europa League.
Okay.
Because the English has to have 2 teams in the Europa League.
And right now Tottenham's locked into the qualifying spot. But okay. Interesting. So that was actually big for them. I mean, their goal difference wasn't anywhere close to United, who finished in 8th at a -1 goal difference, which is quite strange. I mean, not as strange as United, West Ham finishing at -14 goal difference in 9th. Don't see that very often. But that's getting ahead of ourselves here. We'll move on to the next match. Which is Manchester United. They came through for us. We both picked them to beat Brighton at home. They did indeed, blanked them 2-0, although it was 0-0 for the longest of times until the 73rd minute Dalot goal, followed up by a Rasmus Højlund 88th minute strike from assisted by Eriksson. But, Brighton didn't look bad in this one, was the thing. Like, they were hanging in there. They outpossessed Manchester United. It's just United was able to capitalize where Brighton's only got 3 of their 17 shots actually within the goal mouth.
Yeah, I mean, Brighton missed a few really good chances. Man U also missed a one-on-one with a keeper at one point, but yeah, I mean, kind of a strange 2-0. I feel like it could have been 4-1, 4-2, kind of like the other games, but just didn't work out for them. I thought Brighton might score. They should have scored. They had a lot of corners early, but yeah, couldn't get it done. Couldn't put them all on frame that needed to be on frame.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them, especially with how poorly they performed at home this season, as opposed to typically, I mean, kind of like how Molineux usually does pretty well for the Wolves. The Amex is usually a nice place to be for Brighton, but this one didn't go their way at any stretch of the imagination. Then we move to the Battle of Relegance, if that's a word that we can use here. Near relegance. This was going to be the relegate battle, but it ended up not being. Nottingham Forest beats Burnley 2-0 with an early brace by Chris Wood, getting his work done early. And then Burnley gets a consolation goal there in the 72nd. Not the best of matches to be expected from teams of this side. Burnley, really, I mean, what a classic way for Burnley to go out here. 73% possession, 3 shots on goal. I think that kind of speaks to their whole season. 20 shots, only 3 of them. I mean, we're giving Brighton a hard time. 20-3 shots on target for Burnley.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was going to say the same thing. If they're going to go out, they're going to go out in Burnley style. A lot of shots, not a lot on target, and a ton of passing. And Nottingham, after Wood got the second goal, they were cool with it.
Yeah.
They were like, we don't need to see the ball again. They did what I thought they would do. They were going to cement their place as, hey, it wasn't that close.
No, and it wasn't. I mean, they technically had 36 points this season, which is still not great, but it's 10 above Luton Town. This season is just. I think you said previously that like normally 40 points and you're safe. We said 30 points and you're safe. Hey, nail on the head there. You get 30 points this year, you were safe, and that does not speak highly of the teams that are getting relegated. Then we move to Chelsea and Bournemouth. Chelsea takes care of business there over Bournemouth. We both had that going, although it was closer than we thought, with it only being 2-1 as opposed to our 4-1 and 5-2, respectively. And even the goal that Bournemouth did get was an own goal by Benoit Badiashile. That's how you say it.
Yeah, that's definitely how you say it.
It's Benoit Badiashile.
Yeah, I mean, this one, Chelsea just couldn't find the back of the net forever after the first goal. And the first goal was like almost from, mid-line.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even really a typical goal. And then Sterling got one. I feel like he hasn't scored in a while. But yeah, this was a weird one. I feel like neither team, like we kind of said going into it, neither team had a ton of purpose anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea, you kind of felt like Tottenham was going to beat Sheffield United pretty handily. Yeah. So both teams, like, they were kind of free-flowing. At times, it kind of looked like they were just waiting out the clock, even though it was the 55th minute. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I don't know. It felt like one of those games where neither team had anything to play for, and it showed.
Yeah, this is one of the ones where if you weren't a supporter, that match did not grace your screen. There's no reason to pull that one up. Then to one that we did not get right. You actually got this one right as far as who would win, but a 5-0 victory for Crystal Palace over Aston Villa with a hat trick by Jean-Philippe Mateta and a brace by Eze. Wasn't on my dance card, man. I didn't expect this sort of drubbing here at the very end. Crystal Palace, I mean, going out on the highest of high notes, probably the hottest team in the league at this point with how they've performed this past 2 months or so.
Yeah, that put Mateta on 16 goals in the last 15 match weeks.
You know, that's decent. I'll give him that.
So, I mean, he's the hottest player in the Premier League right now. And, yeah, my goodness, it started out quick. It ended quick. Again, this played out like I thought it would. Not as big of a scoreline, but it really looked like from start to finish, Aston Villa, we got our Champions League spot. We're good. We're not going to get hurt. We're probably all still a little bit hungover. And so, yeah, boy, that one was bad, though. And I don't think anyone cares, to be honest. I don't think Aston Villa looks at that and they're embarrassed. I think they look at that and they say, all right, no one got hurt. 5-0. We're cool with that. On to next season.
And really, it is a very impressive turnaround for Crystal Palace. I mean, back in February, we were talking about how they were in risk of maybe getting caught by some of the bottom-tier teams. And then they come up, and after this loss to City, I mean, they're undefeated from there to the end and jump from 15th to 10th in a matter of just a few weeks. I mean, the great momentum.
Yeah, I think their new manager only has one loss, and that loss is to City.
Hey, listen, if you only have to take one of them, that's probably the one to take. And it was 4-2. I mean, it wasn't like it was totally embarrassing either. Now, unfortunately for Crystal Palace, they're Eagles and stuff, but they're about to get their carcass picked here. And I do not think that all these players will still be here come the beginning of next season. Several players linked with bigger clubs and will likely be snatched away just as things are going so well.
I mean, Crystal Palace is going to have a big price tag on these players, and depending on the financial impact of what the City verdict is, that could make other teams very hands-off of, well, if City can get that kind of punishment, then what are we going to get if we get close? So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. You know, it's the City verdict is one thing, but technically they can still appeal after the verdict, so it doesn't actually affect them right away. Either way, I think teams are going to be maybe less spend happy.
Yeah.
I just don't see Eze, Mateta. They've all been linked to clubs before that are big. Eze was linked to City and linked to Tottenham, and he rejected the moves. So it wouldn't shock me if they stay, especially with how good they were playing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. That would be interesting to see if we got a little bit of a tighter pocketbook this offseason because of the pending City decision. We'll see how that plays out. But we'll move on from Crystal Palace and Selhurst Park to my Wolves going into Anfield and losing 2-0. Listen, I think that I can get this one removed from my pick because, I didn't have a red card, a straight red happening with Nelson Semedo in the 28th minute. I didn't have that in the works. So I think losing only 2-0 is not that bad after going down to 10 men less than 30 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, they withstood 36 shots, 14 on target, and almost 70% possession. Yeah, Jose Sa put in a shift in this one. And 2-0 is really nice. And the Wolves almost scored a couple of chances. So it wasn't that bad. for 2-0, red card, 28th minute. I thought in the second half it was going to get blown open. So kudos to Wolves for holding the line, not going into the summer with a 7 or 8-0 loss.
Yeah, could have definitely gotten out of hand with Liverpool. But, they were really not playing for anything at all. Socked in third there. Nothing going on. Only thing that happened, of course, was Klopp. That is his last game. So, yeah, it could have been way, way worse. You had it as 5-0, so I'm glad it wasn't that. From there, we go to Luton Town, losing to Fulham 4-2 with, Jedi didn't get directly involved in this one, but Adama Traore. We got our Adama Traore sighting. Apparently, he's way better on Fulham than he ever was with the Wolves.
Yep. I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, this was a game of just like right there at the end of the first half, you had 3 goals in a matter of 6 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I thought Luton were going to be able to do it. I mean, they scored the 55th minute. They looked menacing. I thought they were going to at least get a draw, and they didn't, which was sad, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But it would have mattered in my picks. And I could have gone even better than my best match week, but
units-wise, it wasn't your best match week. We can talk about that in a minute. From the last match we'll see at Kenilworth Road for a little while to one that we will continue to see at Etihad, Manchester City, them championes, take the game 3-1. A little nervy there for a little while after the Kudus goal that we were talking about, but after Rodri's 59th minute, City was coasting at that point. I mean, leading up to the 59th minute, they came out in the second half and they were dominating everything. And West Ham didn't really look like they cared to try to even get a draw after the Rodri goal. They were kind of there just letting City go at them. And really, it should have been more than 3-1. It's a lot of, it kind of wrapped up Haaland's season quite neatly that he went goalless in this one. And because he had a lot of really good chances and he wasn't converting at the rate that we've seen him convert in the past. So we'll see if this is just a sophomore slump. And if he can come back next season a little bit more reinvigorated, a little bit more, I won't say a little bit more hungry, but just a little bit more efficient. Because he's still a higher work rate, but he just wasn't quite connecting this year as he had last year.
Yeah, I mean, Haaland in front of goal missed 2 sitters, and it could have been 5-1 very easily. Mm-hmm. Had he just put his body in the way and actually hit him towards the goal. But man, Phil Foden proved
or if they called that penalty, or they called that penalty there in the second half. I can't remember who drew that. I think it was Doku.
Yeah,
but there should have been a penalty there in the second half that they did not call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Phil Foden, he proved that he is the player of the season. I mean, biggest game of the season, comes out second minute, just a sweet, almost upper 9 strike, puts it again in the 18th minute. It had to be Rodri. He did it last year. He did it again this year. He just passes it right into that net like no one else can do. But it did get nervy. West Ham did have another chance. They did technically score another goal. It just happened to go off Souček's arm, yes. Which was, he knew it right away.
Yeah.
The ref was like, no, it's a goal. Like, we'll check. And Souček is already like, it wasn't a goal.
You can see the bruise on my forearm here. Like, I did not hit that.
Yeah, no, but you hit it though. Like, I think they had one more attack after the Rodri goal where I think Kudus hit it pretty quick across Ortega and he saved it. Other than that, it was just City possessing, trying to get more goals to make it a more fun afternoon. West Ham was like, all right, we accept defeat. We're okay with this. But yeah, I mean, City are champions again. We're going to try to find Pete. And we'll see lots of rumors about who we might sign, who might leave. But Pep is staying. That's what I care about.
Yeah. I think that's really what matters most. And then to the last match, the match that is disappointing because it didn't set the record. Tottenham takes out Sheffield United 3-0. the last match at Bramall Lane for a good long while. I did not expect to see them back up anytime soon. And it wasn't even close. I mean, this was Tottenham all the way. 76% possession. 9 shots on target to 1 shot on target. It looked like a team that was going down, just rolling over and trying not to die too badly. And they just barely did it, really. They could have. They tied the record for most goals conceded. They did not set the record.
No, they set the record for most goals conceded.
I meant goal difference. For goal difference, they drew it.
Which, I don't know, what's worse? Scoring more goals but still tying it? Just giving up that much, or tying it? I don't know, but it was a match. I tuned in a little bit, and then I watched the highlights. Yeah, it was Tottenham at some point, they were just toying with them.
Yeah.
Like, passing around the back. I think at one point, one of their players, who was it? It wasn't Richarlison. No, Richarlison didn't play. Maybe it was Johnson, but someone started like juggling the ball during the match. So Tottenham all the way. Sad they couldn't get a 4th goal, but we'll see you later, Sheffield.
Yeah, it'll be probably much later. I'm just looking through here. I think they had more losses by 5 goals or more than they had wins this season. Yeah, definitely, because they had 3 5-0 losses. And then 1 8-0 to Newcastle earlier in the season. Make that 4.
I think they had a 6-0 at one point.
They had a 6-0 to Arsenal. They lost more goals. Yeah, they lost. They were very bad, historically bad Sheffield United. It's hard to quantify how bad they were, other than just saying they are arguably the worst team ever to play in the Premier League for a year. That's kind of how it breaks down for you there, Sheffield. And we will, I don't know when or if we will see you again. Just over the span of time, I'm sure we'll see you again at some point. But it's going to be a while. But that brings us to the end of this match. That is the match day that was 38. You went a grand total of 8-2. I went 4-6 because I was trying to be adventurous. And guess what? The favorites went 9-1. So even with your perfect picks, you still, units-wise, lost to the favorites, who only had 14 units up this one match day.
I'm okay with that. I was going for wins and losses this week.
You definitely upped that number.
Wins in a match week. I'm cool with it.
It got you close. You're still only trailing me by not 11 picks at this point. That I got right and you got over you. But, you've got...
I made up a lot of ground, though. I was down by 50.
Yeah, you made up a lot of ground. Apparently, I made up some units ground somewhere. Maybe my numbers were just miscalculating at some point. But I'm only losing to you by 57 units, which I don't think I'll be able to make up in the one pick we have left, which is the Champions League title. I don't think I can make up that many units, even if I got a perfect pick. That'd be a lot to make up. In fact, it's not possible to make up. There is one more, quote-unquote, EPL match that we mentioned already, the FA Cup final, Manchester City versus Manchester United here this upcoming weekend. I think we both know how that one's going to go. I think that's going to be a City win. We're not going to count it towards our pick totals, but 3-1 probably, something like that. Yeah,
it's going to be such a throwaway game. I mean, they're going to win by so much. We don't even want to count it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be fair.
But that, like you were saying, that will get Chelsea into the Europa League and Newcastle into the Conference Championship. I don't think that's quite right.
Europa Conference League.
Europa Conference League.
But if Man U wins, Chelsea stays in the Conference League, and Man U gets into the Europa League.
So, that Man U actually has something to play for, but Man City doesn't want to lose to Man U. That's pretty big motivation.
Amen.
I could see a Phil Foden hat trick here, just going out and listen, I'm not going to let you guys have nothing.
Don't get me started. I'm not
going to let you guys have nothing, Phil Foden says. But yeah, that's what that will. We're going to have a in-person record coming up this weekend, but no other episode this week. So let's go ahead and do you have a trivia that we can answer right here, right now?
Uh-oh. Maybe people forgot what you said earlier. So I'll say, what's the record? My question was, what's the record for most goals scored? Which season did it happen in? But I'm going to go, what's the second most, since earlier in the episode we already said it was this season is the record. So which season was second on the list for most goals scored in a Premier League season?
Go and put your time picks in here right now. We only cover the EPL here in Champions League, but I will mention that Bayern Leverkusen completed their undefeated season in the Bundesliga, which is quite an accomplishment. I mean, that's kind of understating it, I feel like. But we're gonna have some uncommon names in the Champions League next year with how the Premier League, the Bundesliga finished up. And we have two known teams for next season coming up to the Premier League. We have Ipswich Town finished in second, so they're going to come up. And oh golly, who was the other one? We just talked about this. Ipswich Town was in second. Leicester City finished in first in the English in the Championship, so they're both up. And then it'll be Leeds United and Southampton in the playoff this upcoming weekend to see who goes in. I'm going to go with Leeds United in that because I want all those Americans back up in the Premier League. That's what I'm looking for. If they're all still on there, I did not follow them this year at all.
Wow. Yeah, we'll see. Are we doing the answer to the trivia?
Yeah, I was just giving them some time to put their comment down below. Let's see. I don't have a guess. I'm going to say 1999.
Wow, you're throwing it back.
Yeah.
You're wrong. It was actually last season.
Ah.
But last season's tally was the record at 1,084 goals. And this season, the Premier League eclipsed that on April 25th. Nope, sorry, the 24th. So almost a month ago, they broke the record.
Whoa.
So I think they beat it by, what is that math there? Almost 140, 139 goals.
It's a lot of goals. That is a lot of goals.
Yeah.
It's an era where, they always say defense wins championships. I don't know if that always applies in soccer as much, but I think it was more that there's just a lot of bad defenses out there. I mean, we going through Sheffield United's alone, like I was saying, I was quantifying. There's 8-0, 6-0, 4-5, 5-0 losses. That stacks up. That stacks up fast.
Doing the math, 267 of the 1,223 came from the relegated sides. Luton's, I think they would technically be fifth on the list for most goals conceded. So we have some record breakers, and the bottom teams were about as bad as they get when it comes to defense.
Yeah, they were. They're very bad. But there we go. 2023 was the previous record, and now it is 2024. So take that and snort it. What? Wow.
We do not condone any drugs in this podcast.
No. It was doing a neti pot. They were snorting a neti pot. They had allergies. You know what? You're in Nashville, man. You know what allergies are all about. It's crazy down there. Gotta get that neti pot and get all that down there.
Shout out to our non-sponsor, San Pellegrino, for keeping us hydrated.
Get out of there. I don't want any more targeted ads from that man Stanley Tucci. I just keep seeing him pop up in my feeds. Drink San Pellegrino. I'm Italian. No, Stanley Tucci. I will not. But until we see you next week, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Now, I've reshuffled my languages, so this one I know that I've done previously, but this is the new start of the list. Hello, Ma.
Stay hydrated, folks.